Hey guys, this is Julie. Good morning. It's Saturday. I'm going to take a look at some charts. And just a note before we get started that, you know, it's not every day that people can make an ass out of themselves on Twitter. Somehow I managed to do it like all the time. I was on Twitter Friday saying the spreads were, intact, and they weren't. I don't trade the ES very much. I'm pretty much a NASDAQ trader. So when I saw the one, um, pen, I just flipped my head and assumed the wrong assumption and got turned around. The spreads were blocked, they weren't intact. So, mea culpa. The white line is the one, and the two upper reds are the two and three, and the two lower greens are the two and three. So you go one, two, three up and one, two, three down. And they blocked price from coming back inside the ones. So the spreads were blocked, not intact. So I need to go make a change on my Twitter um, and be more aware of where these levels are before I start saying things. It can make a big difference. So they blocked the spreads from settling inside the weekly range. And that's interesting. So I would assume that we're going to go higher next week as a result of that. And these gray lines, I've taken the quick strike pricing sheets and I've gone from the monthly, quarterly, monthly, weekly, and have drawn levels of the 1, 2, 3 for the implied volatility. So between the first standard deviation and the second, I'll take that level and draw a line on the chart. Same thing on the lower end, the 1 and 2. And just from the weekly, monthly, and quarterly levels, I can tell that I've got a confluence of the weekly 3 with one of these levels. And anytime you have a confluence, it makes it a strong level. So next week, going into the reports, if my hypothesis is correct now, then we should be moving higher and perhaps getting 40.75, 40.78.75, and maybe look for a return back down after that point. If it goes out of bounds, then it's going to be trying to reach this 41.24.75. And I do have tails that I can put on my chart. So let me put some tails on. And let's just see where my tail lined up. So between 41.24 and 41.50, I would expect if it did break out that we would return there. So if you're doing spreads next week, you might want to consider above 41.50 for your protection. Um, if you want it to be sure to close inside of that range. This is just a suggestion. I'm not advising you where to place your orders. It's just a technical level at 41.51.75 for a tail. And I go through the quick strike chart, like I said. It's wonderful. There's other things that you can look at, and that includes your volatility level, your put and your delta and your gamma and vega levels, and especially that gamma. So you want to know if it's going higher or lower. And I like to look for where the highest gamma is, because usually um, the market will try to hit that high gamma. So high gamma is at 39.85 on the weekly. And so I might want to put a line on my chart for my high gamma. And let's make it green. So there's your high gamma. And price will congregate around that like a magnet, right? Like a moth to the flame. And another thing you can do with Quick Strike is take a look of where the open interest. So if I get a new tab, go back to Quick Strike, and then change this to my open interest. And I can look at the most actives and take a look at what has changed and what is hot and popular. You know, a lot of contracts are changing around 32.30 and 35.75. So they're adding on at 35.75 a lot. So I want to take a look at where that is. And that looks like it might be the put wall. Yeah, right here. They're putting their puts down here, which is one tail. Look at that. They've got my one tail below the weekly standard deviation. So they're putting their puts down here. It's amazing how my real volatility level matches where they put their strikes, right? So having this to confirm or, understand what is happening real world, it's a valuable tool to me. So I will be using this in my private Twitter feed going forward next week, and not posting so much in general Twitter. In fact, not posting at all, except for maybe end of day um, or end of week market reports, like we're doing market reports. So let me put recaps. That's what I'm trying to say. So let me put the monthly range on here. And I've got to add more days to get that to print. Here we go. So here's our monthly. You can see that we're above the monthly one, which is bullish. And here's our resistance, monthly 2 and weekly 1, right where the resistance came in. Monthly 2, weekly 2 rather, excuse me. And so that monthly 2 will be a resistance area at 40.2975. And then let me just put the quarterly on here just to get a complete picture. Oops. Monthly 3 and take off my fibs. I'm using a 30-minute bar, which is really small for getting these larger time frames, but here we go. Now, do you see that we've gotten several lines, several of the lines that I drew on the chart now match with my levels. I don't know if you can see that, but that was a gray line that I had put from going through those sheets and drawing the lines. And when I add my real volatility level to it, we've got another confluence right above it, 41, 25, 75. So that is your quarterly level. So that's another confluence. So we're above the 1 for the monthly, we're above the 1 for the weekly, and we're between the monthly and the weekly 1 in this sandwich right there. So you can see that sandwich, that zipper in between, up and down, up and down, up and down, between the monthly and the weekly 1. It broke out, went to the 2, came back down. So my PT levels are spot on accurate. To get the Globex open for the mean, what I do is use my opening range indicator, and I've got a template for Globex. So let me just add my Globex opens, because that's another location that price will center around, and that is a good directional bias indicator. So yeah, between the monthly and the weekly 1 of 39.74 and 39.41, there is your pivot for next week. So you might want to sit on your hands inside here and see your high gamma is right in the middle, and wait for a resolution above or below for your directional bias. And there you go. So that didn't take long, right? And we can go back and enjoy our Sunday. So above 39.74 bullish, below 39.4150 could be bearish, but watch out for 39.10 for a bounce back up to clear these stops. You know what I'm saying? Clean those out and then go back up. So if it goes down, it could bounce there and then go back up. But anything below 39.10 for sure, you got a huge move down. And that would be a giant move down. But because of those confluences stacked to the upside and not the downside, my bias is kind of to the upside. So maybe a short squeeze is going to be in place for next week. Just keep your eye on 39.10. And so, yeah, there is our trade plan. I hope you like it. Again, if you would like to subscribe to the levels, come over to the website and you can get the indicator for NinjaTrader, a lifetime license. I'm not offering subscriptions anymore. A one-time payment, and then it's yours. Or you can get the Twitter, um, monthly and get the levels of charts. And or in the morning, I will post levels for currencies, energy, equities, and metals. Um, right now, I'm offering energy and equities. If I get some currencies or metals traders or fixed income, you fixed income guys want to see this, it works the same on all markets. And these are the daily levels, just an example. And I can do the calculations from the open or the close, the session open and the close, and you can get an idea for your spreads with your own analysis and your own tools. But I think that I have a very good product. If I, don't, like I said, stumble over my own toes and say that the spreads were intact when they really weren't. The weekly was above the weekly. We were inside the monthly, and so I guess half of my prognostication Friday was accurate, but it really wasn't. I was turned around. I get turned around all the time. I need to start focusing more, and I've been, tunnel visioned on something else, and ES is not really my instrument. I get more range out of the NASDAQ, so that's why I really like the NASDAQ better. But the ES has had some really good ranges lately. I gotta tell you, some really nice moves. But when it goes sideways and small, there's nothing worse to trade than the ES. I mean, we went through a couple of years where it just did nothing but this kind of crap. And that just eats your algos alive. So I tried to stay away from the ES as much as possible for that reason, because it just did this like for 2 years. But we've gotten a little bit more volatility and directional price movement out of it, so it's a little bit better. But when you compare the NQ, you can see a dramatic difference. Give this a second to load, and we'll just take a peek at it. I'll have some charts set up Tuesday. Come back and take a look. I'll be doing a comprehensive look with NinjaTrader of these levels going into the FOMC meeting, and we'll go back and look at the spreads for the monthly, weekly, quarterly, and also going back to FOMC and seeing what the directional moves were off of prior reports, and see if we can do an event chart and um, get some sort of idea of where this can go next week for all the instruments. I'll be looking at fixed income, currencies, gold, ES and Q, crude, and but yeah, here even in Q you can see that the resistance, it's there for a reason. I mean, that's where they come in and hit it. They cleared the stops, came back hard, and these monthly, weekly levels were pinned. They did not want it to get back inside. They're trying to keep it long, so that's good. I mean, I think they should be supporting the market. I mean, this is pretty encouraging that they're not allowing it to get back inside the range. They're they're forcing it to stay above the range. So, but we'll take a look at more markets next week. On Tuesday, I'll have some charts set up, and we'll go through and take a look at all the instruments and go back and look at a couple of the previous reports and see how well they performed. Look at this. It get just perfectly to these PT levels. I mean, it just blows my mind. Now, one thing that, as a caveat, that you should be aware of, these levels aren't really meant to be treated as stop and reverse. They're meant to be treated as targets to trade to, because you really don't know if price is going to sit there and go flat for the rest of the session, which it can do a lot, or turn around or continue. So I just treat these levels as targets to trade to. I don't really use this as a stop and reverse system unless you're really, really far out of bound. And meaning, let me show you what I mean for that. Hang on one second. I'll show you real quick, and you'll get it. So let me remove these. I'm going to remove that, and I'm going to make this a 3-month. Okay, good. And I'm going to use the fibs, and I'll show you this quarterly with fibs. There we go. When you see that you have gotten so far below your quarterly, that is an excellent place to stop and reverse. Um, because, you're way out of bounds. And here we got this, came back, and they don't give you a gimme, right? Came, popped it up. So if you had traded that right here, 848 points in a couple of days, $17,000, right? For one contract. But then they came and cleared the stops and then sent it back up. And then there's also one that went to the very last tail, um, almost the last tail here. I guess it was this one. So, and then you get to the situation where it's the last train to Clarksville for life, right? Then it starts moving up. Um, but these lower quarterly or monthly tails are the ones that I try to find, um, and try to find that perfect stop and reverse location. Um, here's that, changed it from a monthly. So here's a monthly 3. And you can see that they pinned it. They didn't allow it to touch the line. So that's a clear indication that that is a valid pin when it doesn't even breach it. They've blocked it. Huge, huge move from that location. And then you're inside the monthly till you break out. So it went from the 1 to the 3 on the monthly. I mean, these higher time frame 123s are what I get so excited about. 940 points in just a couple of days, 2 days, or getting the reversal from the one to go to the other side, right? You're 1 to 1. But here we're time framing up. Now that there was another, here was a good instance. Look at that. There was another one that it went to, I think, to my very last tail. But yeah, when you can get a very, very low, um, higher time frame level, that's where I look hard at the stop and reverse. But for the daily levels or the weekly levels, I don't do that. I'll just trade to the level and flatten it out. Target reached. So that's it for me. Come check me out Tuesday. I'll look at more charts and we'll try to put the pieces together for going into FOMC. Y'all have a great weekend. Talk to you later.